ARMS is a completely new IP from some of the fresher minds at Nintendo, and it's their latest jump into the realm of esports gaming. It's a fighter from some of the staff that worked on the newer Mario Kart games, and Nintendo's first step into the genre outside of the Super Smash Bros. Games. Though the game isn't very much like other fighters at all because of its twist on the usual two-dimensional camera angle, ARMS twists gameplay elements from both fighters and shooters into a completely new style for the genre. When you play this game, you'll have a third-person view placed behind your character with your enemy always in sight, so you can focus clearly on the projectiles and fists your opponent will be barraging you with. A design like this is very interesting to me, but will it shake the foundations of what we consider fighting games, or will it be dubbed as a gimmicky take on the genre? Personally, I think the answer for that lies in how much post-release effort Nintendo actually puts into this game. I'll start off by saying that I love ARMS, but one of my biggest frets with this game is its low amount of content compared to its asking price. Don't get me wrong, I don't regret my purchase at all, but as it stands right now, the game is missing some of the meat that games at the same price tend to have. Fortunately for us, Nintendo promised that they would update the game similarly to Splatoon by adding new fighters, stages, and weapons further down the line. At launch, ARMS has 10 characters of varying playstyles that fill every niche I can think of. Each character has their own standout quirks, so there's at least one character for everyone, but if we boil it down to straight numbers, this game is kinda lacking. To get an idea of everything, I'll list them out. There's 10 characters, 10 maps, and 30 weapons with a small amount of different modes. Of course, when you chop it down, it sounds bare bones, but the game makes up for this in polish. My issue here isn't necessarily the low amount of characters, because the depth of this game is in the creative duos of weapons you can set up on top of your character. If you wanted to have a fast character with heavy, slow-moving weapons, you can do it. There's a lot of experimenting you can do here, and that's where the meat of the game is. But if Splatoon is anything to go by, we'll have plenty of content in this game by the end of its life cycle. I think my biggest issue with the content of this game right now is the amount of game modes. The single-player campaign of this game is just simply an arcade mode where you fight 10 challengers and then a final boss. But if you bought this game, you more than likely bought it for the one-on-one battles. But if that may bore you, you have an option of a couple other game modes. You have a 2-on-2 mode and a training mode, and even the ability to have 4 players play locally. Other than that though, you have more minigame styled options such as volleyball or basketball or target smashing modes. It sounds like there's enough to keep you entertained here, but everything outside of the standard 1v1 and maybe the 2v2 felt like fluff to me. Though I think it's a little petty to complain about extra content, I can't really see myself willingly playing most of these game modes more than a fraction of my time playing this game. On the more optimistic side of things, I'm enamored over just about every piece of this game's presentation. The soundtrack is wonderfully catchy, and I get flashbacks to playing Brawl with all my friends every time I hear that vocal-heavy theme song. Every bit of this game is filled with creativity and charm. I'm not the only one when I say that I love the designs of these characters in this game. Each character has some visual gimmick in their design that gives logic to why their arms are extending several feet from their body, such as the double helixes on the aptly named Helix and the hair of Twintail. But I think a lot of these characters have subtle designs as well. For instance, Ninjara is a ninja character with hair in the shape of a shuriken, but his goggles are formed from the openings and chain links to match his chain arms. Along with that, we have the character Min Min, who has ramen noodles for arms and a beanie that looks like a ramen bowl. This game is oozing with creativity, and I could honestly spend an entire video gushing over the quirks of each character alone. But the real question here is, how will this game stand as a fighter? Honestly, it's all dependent on how well Nintendo and the fighting game communities treat this game. I wouldn't call Pokken Tournament a bad game by any means, but it really didn't have the push that some companies give their fighting games. Hopefully, ARMS takes off, but I wouldn't be expecting it at EVO past year 1, even if that. Speculation aside, I think this game shows a pretty good example of some strong balancing. Most characters seem to be on equal footing, but I'm sure this has to do with how each character has the same weapon pool. As far as I've noticed, high mobility characters like Ribbon Girl, Min Min, and Kid Cobra seem to dominate much more than the slower, tankier characters. But when it comes to controller methods, I think that the primary control scheme of using 2 Joy-Cons is interesting, but I can't see anything other than the Pro Controller being used if the game actually takes off competitively. The ability to play this game with any controller setup, though, is this game's saving grace when it comes to competitive play, but I'm thankful for the options myself. As an aside, I think the game's netcode is great considering I play wirelessly and I've only had a couple disconnects and lag that could have very well been just my opponent. My only complaint here is that the rank mode is terribly bare bones. It's wonderful that I have a separate queue for strictly 1v1 games with no items, but it's really disappointing that the ranks are as simple as earning a number between 1 and 15. This game has no leaderboards or statistics when it comes to rank, so your only gauge of skill is how close you are to the max rank of 15. I really hope they add some meaning to ranked in the future, or maybe even a marker when you join lobbies, because right now it doesn't feel important or even worth your time. In closing, I love ARMS, and I'm excited for what the team has in store for us, but as for now, I can't recommend this game. I'm sure the production costs and polish make up for the $60 price tag, but for someone on the fence, I would probably say you'd be disappointed. That being said, I can definitely say ARMS is an amazing game and a great fighter, and I look forward to seeing if it actually stirs up a competitive scene.